Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we're talking about how stress, spelled backwards, is desserts. And there is an actual reason for that. We're going to talk about what stress is. We're going to talk about how it affects your body physically, especially how it affects women, and how it can, affect weight loss, emotional eating, and so much more. So if you're ready, listen up, lean in as we elevate your mind.
How did you find out stress backwards was desserts?
I was looking up a webinar name. And that's what came up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I don't know if I used like ChatGPT or something, but it
was before ChatGPT.
That's true. It was a webinar that we did.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
I was like, wait a second.
A mess. Why is this so? Guys, we're back in the studio.
We're back together.
Reunited.
I was thinking Backstreet's back. All right. Did you see on Netflix they're having like a thing about Backstreet and sync with the guy who
Luke
created
Perlman.
Yeah. Which I was like, I didn't know there was a thing about that.
Oh yeah. There was a whole thing. He took all their money. Yeah. They didn't make
your
a
TikTok
lot.
person.
Mm-hmm. But millions of dollars. Yeah.
Really?
And he was like those farms that breed dogs.
Yeah.
He was that for boy bands.
Yeah. He made a lot of boy bands.
Yeah. It's kind of insane. No, I'm excited to watch that. I want to watch Simone Biles. But let's talk about Joe Biden.
Oh,
he stepped down.
I know. Thank God. Sorry.
I know. I'm like, all right.
That was good.
I can do this. This is a change up.
I'm still not going either party on that one though.
Well,
I've made a commitment this year.
Okay. That's good. I feel sad for him because I know that this was his lifelong thing. This was his legacy. And he had to say goodbye to it.
Yeah.
It'd be like us having to say goodbye to fitness because we have something dementia like my dog.
Yeah, but I mean, he got 4 years.
Right.
So I don't know. Call that a win.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
John McCain didn't get
any.
That was also his lifelong.
Well, and I think George Bush the first only got 1 year. Mm-hmm. Actually, he did because of the second time the Ross Perot thing happened.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So Kamala, supposedly, we'll see. I've got other people.
We'll see.
I mean, it's going to happen, but I would like to see who our vice president is going to be.
Do you have someone you'd like?
I like Pete Buttigieg. I think he should run for president personally. I like a gay guy that was the Navy vet or Air Force veteran. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right up my alley. I like Mark Kelly, astronaut. Love his wife, Gabby Giffords. Obviously, both dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see both of them as president.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do like her agenda against, women's rights. And that's always going to be, obviously I own a business, right? So there is a part of me that looks at the financial stuff. However, I was thinking about this today because, business owners obviously lean more towards Republican Party, mm-hmm. right? Because it's the financial piece. But I was like, you know what? For me, that's never been a focus in my political values per se. It is, but it isn't. Obviously, I don't want to, pay ridiculous amounts of taxes, even though I do. I do this because I like to help people, and so I think about programs, and I've worked in those programs, mm-hmm. and I have a father who's disabled who has literally been able to be an entrepreneur because of the programs. I'm obviously Hispanic, so there's that piece of it. And, feeling like I just remember if you guys know, we live in Phoenix, Joe Arpaio had this program where if you looked like you were illegal, you'd have to show your papers.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And my brother looks like sorry, Steven. We don't look anything alike. So that whole thing. But coming back to it, it was right now, my goal is my focus is how can we get this female rights situation situated, and who's going to be the best person to do that.
That's fair. That's a good way to go.
That's my focus right now. And I feel like if it was, and I said, a certain Republican even,
mm-hmm.
was on the ballot, I would vote for them.
Yeah.
Meghan McCain.
I was going to be very conflicted because Trump was talking about having Tulsi Gabbard be his VP. And I was like, oh, crap.
Who's that?
She's a gal from Hawaii that is a veteran. She was a Democrat, but now she's independent. And just, she's very like, this is BS.
Okay.
Like, we need to fix this.
I need to learn about her.
I really like her, but she was, I don't know what she does a lot of like charity work and a lot of outsourcing, and I don't want to say outsourcing, but like outreach per se. So, I mean, she was in the Democratic race. And actually when they did I have fucking pregnancy brain today.
Love it. Regular person, Christina brain.
Like, I cannot come up with words anymore. When they did the Democratic debates, she actually kind of like put Kamala Harris down, and not like a demeaning way, but in a factual way of like, you did this stuff, like you need a report for that.
Right.
Like, so I don't know. I like her.
Yeah. Mark was telling me, how the corruption and everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading a book right now called, actually, I don't know, but it's about the Sackler family. Do you know who they are? Oh, they're the ones that like created the opioids and did all that shit. And so I know. So it's interesting because it's
supporting them.
Well,
Can I talk about that?
Yes. And so it's really interesting because the grandfather, I think, I'm only in like the beginning of it, but essentially the guy who started the company, what he did was he was actually a psychiatrist, worked at a mental facility, then decided like, oh, we can test on these patients. So, and his brothers are also psychiatrists. So then they opened up like their business of testing people. So then they had the drugs, but then what he also did was work for advertising agencies for medical, like for drugs. So then he was able to make advertisements for certain drugs, but then he also bought the advertising agency, and then he also paid for the medical journals that were sent out to the doctors. And then he bought Pfizer.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's really smart, but I'm also like, so if Pfizer made this drug, he already has the medical journal, and then he already has the advertisement background, and then he distributes it. Yeah. Well, and there was this guy in the FBI started looking into him, and I guess
I would watch this documentary.
Yeah, that's what the Senate at the time, like I guess that kind of branch of our government had a lot more say and like investigation power, and so they actually brought him into the Senate committee hearing. And they weren't able to get like a word in to like investigate. And the guy just talked and then was like, okay, I hope that gave you everything, left. And they couldn't pinpoint him because he had so many barriers between him and like the companies. Like, yeah, he owned the company, but not really. And he would fund it. So even what he did, he had a stake. So there was 2 advertisement companies. He owned one, and then he made friends with the other guy and then bought a portion of the stake in that other company. So if he didn't take on like your business, he would send it to this guy, but he still makes money off it too.
Oh, wow.
I know. I was like, wow.
So the moral of the story, guys, is literally you can do anything you put your mind to. Like, I think about these people that like pull this shit off, like the Rockefellers, the goods and the bads, right? Like they were like, no, I'm going to do this. Like Ford, like I'm just gonna figure it out as we go, and if you've ever read the book The Secret, they talk about these specific people and like how they're like, no, just figure it out. Like I'll ask people for permission. I was listening to my podcast today and he's like, you just gotta ask. And I've always I am cut from that cloth of like, I'll just ask like, hey, is this party closed? Is it a VIP? No, you want to come in? Sure. Or whatever. So anyway, that sounds so fascinating.
I know. I asked because I'm like, what's the worst they're going to say? No. And I'm like, already no. Like I'm already not doing it. Yeah.
Right. No.
So
ask. No, but I think I feel rejuvenated in regards to politics.
Really?
Yeah. I'm more interested now.
You're more invested.
Yes. I'm not invested yet. And I told Mark.
Do you usually vote?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. I vote. I just want to see what happens. I do think we should have a we're a Democratic
an open primary, which they did not allow.
Yeah, I think it's still up in the air.
Mm-mm.
No.
So though they back a couple months ago, what should have happened is each state has a primary election for Democratic president nomination. They didn't do that. The Democratic Party said, we're not doing that. We're going to assume Joe Biden is going to do it, even though there were other people technically running.
Yeah.
And so they just said, no, we're not going to host it. And so the state said, okay, now there you have the DNC convention.
Next month.
Technically, Joe Biden was not the nomination until that happened. And now Kamala is not until that happens.
Right.
But some of the Democratic Party is saying, we're going to have an open kind of process where she may not get the votes. It could be somebody else.
Interesting.
But you're technically, the problem is you're not deciding.
Right.
They're deciding. Whereas the primaries is where we would have decided.
Got it. See, this is why she's here. More reasons than that. No, I think that would be
it'd be awesome.
The right way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I know we talked about this before, but also whoever comes in needs to put a cap on how old you can be to be president.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree. Well, I would say how old you could be to be in like a high government like status.
Yeah.
Because that gets a little wishy-washy too, but it's also like, why is the 85-year-old or maybe like
people are dying from like their seats in the Supreme Court.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like
they will die before they step down.
That's insane.
But even like Dianne Feinstein from California, do you know about all that? Yeah.
I don't know about the drama. I actually wrote about her and I did like women's.
Oh, really?
Women's what is women's studies in college?
Oh,
of course.
Okay.
So I did a lot.
So she was great, but they were wheeling her around Congress and she wasn't even lucid.
Yeah.
But just so that make sure they'd be like, hey, you need to vote.
Like,
I vote.
Weekends at Bernie.
Yeah.
Weekend at
legitly. And it's kind of like, but come on. Like
it's insane. Well, and that's power and
I know.
You know.
It's just like to me, I'm like, I would not want my father to like
no.
You know, like, come on.
Yeah.
No. Like just all for money and power, I guess. Like, okay.
Well, I've been listening to Meghan McCain's. I haven't listened to. She only. Okay. Here's my ADHD brain. Why does podcast only post once a week? Like, I want to hear more. Like, I want to hear more from you.
Who does for Meghan McCain?
She does once a week. Yeah. I like her a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never listened to her.
She's very, and she says fuck a lot.
Good. I like that.
I'm like, that's all I need. And she loves Bravo. So like,
oh really?
She's my home girl,
Meghan
right?
McCain.
Meghan McCain.
Because she was on The View, but then she left because I think she was like, this place is a nut show.
Yeah. And the thing about her is like Fox News doesn't like her. She's like kind of her own person, right? But she's still Republican.
Meghan McCain.
But yeah, her podcast is interesting. I want to hear what she has to say on this.
What does she talk about?
Politics. She actually talks about like both sides sucking. So because she's in the middle, like her dad was.
What's her podcast?
It's called Citizen McCain.
Oh.
Which I love the name instead of Citizen Kane. Anyway, this is not a political show. So if you hate all of that,
sorry.
Just fast forward. This weekend, first weekend home, I've slept so well.
I bet.
I wake up 4:30 because I'm still on Central Time, which is great. Wake up at 4:30, get in. Because when we were on Central and Eastern Time, I really enjoyed starting my day later. But now my day starts at 9 a.m., where it started at noon on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, I like that. I need to wake up earlier.
Yeah.
Right. So wake up at 4:30.
Does that mean you go to bed earlier then too?
I've been going to bed around 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on Amanda time now.
Yeah. Well, I went to bed at 8:30 before. So really it wasn't much different. But yeah, I would wake up at 5. I was sleeping in more some days before we left, but now it's like today I actually slept in until 5 and I was like, shit, I need that half hour. Because that half hour I wake up, we sit on the couch, watch HGTV because that's what I watch in the morning, have my coffee, and then I'll go get ready and then work out, walk, and then I cold plunge after I walk now because it's so fucking hot. It's fabulous.
I bet.
Fabulous. So can you cold plunge?
I don't know. I'm going to go with you probably can, but probably shouldn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. In the cold plunge, I do my New York Times games because now we are on 3.
Oh
So Dustin and I send each other our Wordle, our mini crossword, and our strands. So
no.
strands is like a spanogram. I don't even, is that a word?
I don't even know what that means.
So it's like, it looks like a crossword puzzle, but the words are kind of all over, right?
Okay.
And they can cross, you can do like diagonal, like a box.
Okay.
But they give you a theme, and then if you find, say you find boat, they'll put a little that in a hint. Like you can find words in the crossword or whatever you want to call it, and then after 3 words you find, it gives you a hint of what the theme like is. So yesterday was knives, and that was hard. I was like, I don't like machete. But today was like things you row or things in water. So it was like boat, actually. It's like canoe and kayak and all that. So we send those over. So I do those in the.
How long are you cold pledging for now?
In like 7 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, because I do all 3 of those games now.
Ooh.
So it's great.
Oh
We only do ours at 55.
I don't know what that. I know that.
Degrees.
Yeah, but like I don't know how cold that would be.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's cold. My bones hurt.
Yeah.
One day he had it on like 45. I was like, I can't sit in there.
10 degrees is a big difference.
Oh, I mean, you feel it in your bones.
Yeah,
it's nuts, man. I'm like, why am I? No, I don't want to be sore. Like, I don't want to feel sore. I feel relief. So, but it definitely like, it's so nice because, you're walking outside and do my little walk in my little hummingbird.
Is it still there?
It's somewhere else.
Migrated.
My hummingbirds I took a video of it today. They're out and about.
That's cool.
I know. I enjoy that, which is really good for my startle response when I'm walking, because I always think it's like a fucking one of those big black bumblebees. And I'm like, oh wait,
it's my bird.
It's my bird, or it's a butterfly. Thank you. Say hello.
That's nice.
Yeah, I like it.
It's good. It's still there.
How's your training? You finished MAPS performance?
Advanced. I'm over it. It's just kind of the same thing over and over and over again, like for too long almost.
Yeah.
It was good in the beginning because it changed every 2 weeks, but it's kind of my own fault because they have this skill work. So essentially like your trigger days. I've done the same thing. And so it's just, I was supposed to take like 3 days, like a skill work, a mobility day, and a rest day this last week. And I was like, fuck that. I'm just going to go into the next phase. Because I'm like, let's wrap this up.
Let's get over this.
Yeah. And like this last phase is fine, but it's so like, for example, it's a sled pull and a sled push, which was fun, and something else and something else. Okay, fun. And then today was 5 sets of 20 of squats, 3 sets of 20 of 3 sets of 20 of row, 3 sets of 20 of chest press, 3 sets of 20 of overhead press.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like,
yeah,
I'm over that.
Yeah. And then
I'm ready to lift.
Well, and I know. And that's what I was going to say. You like lifting heavy.
Yeah.
I'm doing a combo that I made up for myself. That is 3 supersets. So you ultimately are doing, so I do a barbell sumo squat, which I've never actually done barbell sumo squats. Like
with the bar on your back.
Yeah. I always use like a heavy dumbbell, like in between. And then I go into a heavy dumbbell deficit sumo squat. So like working the same muscle group. Then I go into Romanian deadlift, I literally just did this morning, you guys. Oh, a sumo deadlift. And then a hip thrust into a 45-degree hyper on the barbell.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're doing like a leg day.
Yep. Leg day. And then I do the same for upper body. And then I do a conditioning day. So I'll do like just back squats, right? I do back squats, and I did something else. I've only done it this 1 week, so I can't remember, but then I'll go into like an AMRAP.
Did you look at the one?
Yeah. I'm going to use her upper. I didn't like her because she does,
it's
because
odd.
I'm doing upper, lower.
Yeah.
I'm going to use one of her uppers. I think it has like the cleans. But yeah, so I did box jumps for the first time in a long time. Yeah. And wall balls. I'm going to do she does a lot of med ball slams in there. Like I was like confused.
So I was like, because on that reel that I have where you can see where I'm coning doing that, I was like, this takes like a special person to be able to like modify that.
Yeah.
And like not like
and not hit your belly.
That's what I was. So
I guess it's first trimester, so maybe that's why.
Still,
but yeah, I did wall balls into so it was front dumbbell or like front racked dumbbell squats into wall balls, into jumps, into something else.
That sounds fun.
Kettlebell swings. Was it kettlebell swings? I don't know.
Something.
Yeah. So then I'll do her little program, and then like maybe a full body if I want to. But I'm just gonna wait until after this weekend. We go to Vegas, and then
are you going to Vegas this weekend?
Yeah, Howie's.
Okay. Now it's Howie's turn. Okay.
Yep. So
Friday to Monday or what?
Friday to Sunday.
Okay.
No. When there's a Howie,
it's a lot.
There's an owie.
Yeah. It's a lot.
When there's a Howie, there's an owie. Yeah. I'm going to tell him that.
It's an adventure.
Our friend, my husband's best friend,
all night.
Yeah, is so much fun.
He's just really good at doing Vegas.
Yes.
He just knows.
He's really good at doing anything.
Yeah, he's really good at Vegas.
Yeah. So we'll have that, and hopefully this
Is it just the four of you?
No, it's his wife's birthday. So there's a big group coming.
Okay.
So they're taking a private jet to Vegas. Mark and I will drive like the losers we are.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Well, we're staying at the Wynn, which will be nice. I'm hoping. No. But when we go for Formula One, if we do choose to go again this year, we're going to stay in the Virgin.
Okay.
Because also the Virgin is the best way in and out.
Oh, really?
Yes. That we figured that out when we were there. So I'll let you know if we're going to go.
Well, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And I don't think Michael was watching F1 on Sunday. And I was like, I don't think you're going to go, are you, this year? And he's like, I guess not. It's like,
well, if we go, we're going to buy tickets like the week of. Like, yeah, we're not doing what we did last time. So
we live and learn.
But hey, Hamilton won 2 races ago. He was podium this race. So we had 2 wins in a row for Patronus and then a podium.
Do you guys bet on F1 or no?
I don't know if he does. I don't.
Yeah.
I bet on a horse this weekend, $1, because there was number 8 and it was pink, even though I hate the color pink, but I always like the horses that are pink. So it didn't win. Number 8 is one of my numbers.
Okay.
Kobe. So anyways.
Hello, listeners. Coach Amanda here. For July, we are letting you know that our August cohort of the Mindset of Mommy's 8-week program is launching. So for this program, we are going to focus on your health before and during pregnancy through education, support, and confidence. In this program, you can expect to have more confidence for pregnancy by learning the benefits of movement and having a structured program to follow. The program will be 2 to 3 days per week, along with beginner and advanced movement options. In this program, you can also expect to increase your nutrition quality with personalized coaching from yours truly. We'll gain awareness to the changes you'll experience mentally, physically, and emotionally during pregnancy, create a strong network of support by learning about a diverse range of professionals to include in your health during this time, as well as gain education on testing done throughout pregnancy. There'll also be a toolkit of resources that includes PDF documents, additional literature that I recommend, podcasts, and social media pages that support your healthiest pregnancy yet. On top of this, you'll get weekly community group calls, weekly written reviews, and our private forum to engage with other like-minded women. You can sign up for this program today for $3.99, and we will start our August cohort August 5th. So if you're interested, please visit mindsetofmommies.com to get more information and to sign up.
Let's talk about stress, shall we?
Desserts.
Yes. Stressed. My dog is stressed. If you can hear her having a heart attack right now.
No.
Stressed, spelled backwards, is desserts. Did anybody know that?
I didn't until literally, I just thought it was a catchy thing for the webinar. And then when you were right, I was like, wait, it is desserts.
It literally is.
I love dessert.
So let's talk about stress because it is. So I want to preface this with, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to, get you fearful of cortisol and the stress belly and stress in general. So before we even start this conversation, I need you to understand that stress is great for you. There's good and bad stresses. Like stress is going to help you to challenge yourself, to want to be better, to work harder, right? It even can create some excitement, right? Or anticipation of things. But also even from the bad side, stress helps you from getting hit by a car, right? It
Mhm.
helps you to run away from a burning building. Like that is how we survived as human beings. So really be careful, guys. The amount of stress we're talking about is that toxic resilience that we've discussed before, that, relaxation remorse we've discussed before. But I really wanted to kind of put it into perspective of like what goes on in your body from a hormonal perspective. And then give you that information, but then also help you understand just how it behaviorally affects you and how when I'm stressed, I eat more food, therefore I get more belly fat. It's not like just,
or like I sometimes hear like, I'm stressed, my cortisol is spiking, and then I get belly fat. And I'm like, well, but your cortisol will spike throughout the day naturally, like, and it should in the morning.
Correct.
But like that doesn't necessarily equate to belly fat. Like the belly fat could be coming from like the behavior that you're doing to manage the stress more so. So
exactly. So stress itself is a biological response to, so your senses make up what's going on in the world. Then your brain says, okay, there's a demand or there is something that's coming at me. I need to kick in my stress response system, right? So your stress response system is your hypothalamus. So your senses tell your hypothalamus, run. Your hypothalamus tells your pituitary gland, we need to run. Your pituitary gland tells your adrenals, hey, we need to run. And the adrenals say, okay. So it pumps adrenaline first and foremost to get you to go, to run or fight. And then it increases cortisol, right? And so cortisol is more for so adrenaline's right away. Cortisol is for sustainable running or fighting, right? And that's all good. That's the process of it. In that process, though, there are things that are happening in your body. So our body needs blood sugar to move, right? So when cortisol goes up, blood sugar goes into our system so that we can use it for energy in that moment. Our heart rate goes up, of course. There's parts of our bodies that we don't need in that moment. And we in the therapy world say anything from the diaphragm down is frozen. We don't need digestion. We don't need our kidneys. We don't need any of that in that moment. So it kind of like pauses or freezes. We need our brains. We need our limbs. We need our heart, right, to run. So there's parts of that. The other thing from a psychological perspective that happens is we disconnect from people. It's in fight or flight. We're very disconnected from other humans because we need to protect ourselves. Now, obviously, if you're a parent, that's going to look a little bit different, but there's a lack of connection. There's a lack of eye contact.
Really?
When you're in fight or flight. There's a lot of things. I'm going to link it's a graphic that I made to explain the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And on the side, you guys will see what increases and what decreases in the body. And so that happens, right? But eventually the system is designed so that we come back down to this like responsive, relaxed place.
Yeah.
Right. And so the response, right, is the threat is gone. And all of those things we talked about, the cortisol, the adrenaline, those come back down. The heart rate comes back down. The blood sugar hopefully was used, right? Because that's the idea.
Right.
And so we've said it before. So your blood sugar increases. Insulin, you guys, think of them as like a bouncer at a club, and the club is the cells in your body. Okay. So it's like, blood sugar's like, let me in. And the bouncer's like, let me see how many people are in there. And then it's like, okay, you can come in. Right. And then the cells use that for energy. And so keep that in mind because I'm going to talk about that later. Once you run or fight, remember it's fight or flight, right? I want to touch on that in a second, but once that's over, that all comes back down and we come back down to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we call rest and digest. That's where this digestion kicks back up. That's where our connection happens again. We feel very grounded. We feel very safe. Fight, flight, freeze, or please, that's the way I say it, are the four portions of the sympathetic nervous system. I'm going to talk about 3, and then there's the parasympathetic. But what do you want to say about this?
I have nothing to say about that.
Okay.
I thought you explained it really well, because
Okay,
everything
cool.
that I thought like, oh yeah, it's safe, and then you'd say safe, and I was like, oh, okay, like,
Yeah.
pop
So
off.
yeah. So fight is when we're feeling rage, anger,
Mhm.
frustration, right?
Tacky.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people need to realize, like, there's a reason for those emotions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is our like monkey brain
Mhm.
shit. Like, we have had this in our like being for hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of years, right? Then we have flight. So that's more anxiety,
Mhm.
panic, gotta get out of here. Now, that's an important part of this. The fight and the flight, the brain knows I can get out. I'm either going to fight my way out or I'm going to run my way out.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's talk about the freeze.
Okay.
The freeze does not see a way out. This is where we dissociate, we numb, we are just completely disconnected.
Uh-huh.
That is when the brain says, I can't leave this.
Do you find that different personality traits fall in different categories, or it's literally luck of the draw? Or is it like upbringing events that have happened that determine?
Yes,
Yeah.
1000%. Someone who's been through, say, sexual abuse
Uh-huh.
can get stuck in the freeze.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there, especially if it's chronic,
Uh-huh.
right? So there's no way out. And so I just disconnect,
Yeah.
I dissociate,
Yeah.
and so on. Someone who has been maybe even physically abused, right?
Mhm.
They've learned to like fight
Kinda
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've seen that with children that I've worked with, that they just started fighting back at a certain point.
Really?
Yeah. They're like, no, you can't do this to
Yeah,
me anymore. So there are definite upbringings, maybe not even just like what the person has been through, but maybe what they've experienced
Uh-huh.
vicariously through their parent. But even just if we take away experience, those 3 things exist in us.
Right.
Without experience, right? And so when we're in that freeze state, though, it's much different than the fight or flight.
Right.
It is so different in regards to the response in the body. So I want people to know that kind of numbing, that disconnecting, which a lot of people that we deal with, they
Mhm.
have. I mean, they are just in freeze all of the time, and they just don't realize it. And obviously food becomes.
Well, and we've talked about it before in like kind of our overeating tendency clients,
Mhm.
where we're like, okay, so we overate the Oreos or whatever. And then we ask what happened the rest of the day,
Mhm.
and they can't even recall it.
Right.
And it's like, and you're thinking like, were you even participating?
Mhm.
But they weren't. They're just going through.
Mhm.
So that way, if I don't participate, nothing can affect me. Right.
Right.
And so therefore, like, I didn't know my kid, like, yeah, my kids are screaming. My husband's like upset, all this stuff. Work is this. That's all right. Like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Right.
It's fine. It's like, what? Yeah, but it's not.
Right. No, there are, I mean, in our cohort, I remember talking about this in our last group cohort
Mhm.
of this woman was just like, I never realized until the questions you asked me that like, I have no fucking clue.
Mhm.
I don't feel anything. I make it a point to not.
You know, it's so in our current group cohort,
Mhm.
one of the gals reached out to me. I think this on Friday or Saturday. So it was over the weekend where I read it, and I was like, okay. She had said, because in the last couple of weeks, there's been like kind of activities going on. And so she felt frazzled by the activities. So kind of like the flight, like everything's going on.
Mhm.
And she said, now that the activities are gone, I feel like finally everything is just unleashing that I haven't been feeling. And she's like, it feels really good, but also like, what the hell? And I
Mhm.
was like, hey, like,
Mhm.
that's good.
Yeah.
Sit in it.
No, that's funny because I had a similar conversation where a client did the body image assessment.
Mhm.
And she said, I felt a lot of shame putting that on. No, she said, normally I feel a lot of shame when I'm thinking it in my head.
Mhm.
And I said, well, what did it feel like to put it on paper, knowing that someone's going to read it? And she goes, originally it was shame, but then it was sadness. And I go, good.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to feel. I want you to
Right.
feel sad
Right.
about that.
Yeah.
I want you to mourn that loss of connection
Right.
with your body. Shame debilitates you.
Yeah.
But if I'm sad about it,
shame keeps you in that like freeze, like disassociation.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
if I feel shameful about this, like I just am, it just is. And I don't really have to digest where the shame is coming from or why it's there.
Shame is, I mean, again, it's debilitating. That's
Yeah.
a great word because it just says like, you're worthless.
Yeah.
You're worthless.
Yeah. And nothing you can do can change.
Right. So
Yeah.
just be worthless and
Yeah,
don't feel
that's fine.
anything. You're like, okay, great.
Sounds great.
But then we have this other part. Yay. Again, it's that parasympathetic nervous system. So again, that's what we call social connection. Like it's a social engagement system, excuse me. So that is where we feel safe. We're around other people. We feel connected, loved, or, grounded in the moment. And I've worked with this client now for 6 months and she loves it. She's like so into this idea. She came with me with debilitating anxiety. Oof. She's with us for weight loss, but it's just turned into like, she's now found a really great nutrition. We created a plan for her, which she couldn't have done then, but now she's open to it. It's really cool. It's been really cool. I like get chills thinking of her. And she came with me really debilitating anxiety. Now it's, make sure my task is like, how was I present today? Like she'll remind me because she like has realized so much that she was not participant in her life. She was not present in her life. And she was doing things at the expense of other people, which again would affect her. And now she's like, nope.
You know what I find interesting? I think the statement that I hear from women in that type, they go, I don't know why this is always happening to me. It's because you're choosing not to participate. So life is choosing for you. To me, I like one of the things I've been using with my clients lately is make the choice. Like, don't just let it happen to you. Yes. Like, decide, like, if you are going to have the cookie, decide to have the cookie. And that's okay. Right. But like, don't be like, I don't know, like I just started reaching for it. Or like, I don't know why my like house is always on fire. And it's like, because you're choosing not to like pay attention to it. You're choosing to just step back.
I 1000% agree. You have to become the witness to your thoughts or you're just stuck in the content. Right. And so we'll talk about some ways for you guys to do that. But let's talk about how this all affects women. Okay. Because, our like estrogen is actually a very powerful stress reliever. Okay. It's also an anti-inflammatory hormone. So is cortisol. So that's another reason why cortisol is helpful. But when we are talking about people who see a stressed out body, we're talking about someone who's not in fight or flight and they come back down. This is chronic stress, right? So we have, and women are more likely to have chronic stress than men because there's so much expectations on them. So we have the working mom with the kids that they need to get to school. Where's the husband? I don't know. They're making all the meals. They get to work. They're in a leadership position. Then they have to get the kids to soccer, to this, have sex with their husbands if that's still a thing they're doing, so on and so forth. And they're just chronically, they may have aging parents. They may have, siblings that are, nutsos, and they're chronically in this state. So just constant body is pushing cortisol. And it's their lack of awareness around this that's really the issue. Cortisol's the byproduct. Right. Whereas again, on social media, it's like, you just have high cortisol. Well, why the fuck do you have high cortisol?
I know.
Right. So in women specifically, so I want you guys to think of like, so your body, like the hierarchy of your hormones, cortisol and insulin are the motherfucking like G's. Like they run shit. Okay. They're the mob bosses of your body. Okay. So they affect really everything else. And I actually have a hierarchy I found. I don't know what I was doing, but it shows like the hierarchy of hormones, and cortisol and insulin are at the bottom. So if we are, estrogen and cortisol, they like have this love-hate relationship with each other. They very much play off of each other, right? So if we have high levels of cortisol, it can influence our levels of estrogen and vice versa. So for women, obviously, that's a big deal.
Right.
The biggest thing too is when it comes to high cortisol levels, we have to remember what I said earlier. blood sugar,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if I'm chronically stressed, I might be sitting at my desk.
Yeah.
So I'm not using that blood sugar. So remember that bouncer?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yo, we're full inside.
Yeah.
So now insulin becomes, so again, just to say it again, your insulin takes the blood sugar. The blood sugar is knocking at the club door. Insulin says, yes, you could come in. Or, oh, technically it's insulin knocking at the cell door with the blood sugar. So it's like they're plus one for using the club, right? But it's full.
Yeah.
It's full because we haven't used it for energy. So now we have this insulin, our body becomes resistant to it.
Yep.
And that's where that comes in. We want to be insulin sensitive. We want to be sensitive to it. That's where we want to be. So a nice place for insulin and blood sugars receptors are actually in our fat.
Mm-hmm.
So we can store it there if we have too much of it. And that's where we get this kind of visceral fat that we see over our bellies. In menopause, visceral fat goes up roughly like 10 to 15%. But let's just say that we're not talking about menopause. We're going to actually have a whole episode on that.
Yeah, we are.
So now we're seeing this change in our body composition because it's actually the way that the body's feedback loops, right? So there's these feedback loops where if it's not happening the way it's supposed to, I have another way to do it, another way to store it, another way to make sure that it's going somewhere. But then that visceral fat is very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. It is the more visceral fat you have over your belly, the more likely to have chronic disease of some sort. So
even speaking from a pregnancy standpoint, what's really interesting is when women who have uncontrolled blood sugar, we'll say, and I'm going to kind of janky this, but in general, what will happen is baby then has an increased supply of blood sugar. And so then when they're born, they have too much blood sugar now.
Wow.
And then that's why when you see the macrosomia, so like the overgrowth babies is like, they are just pumping, because when they're in belly, like you can kind of figure it out because mom has other sources to help with that. But then when they're born, they're like diabetic because they have so much blood sugar just hanging out and their kidneys like can't process it quick enough.
Yeah. I am obsessed with like in vitro or in utero trauma.
Are you?
Like there's so much shit that like happens in here that you don't even realize that's like happening in here.
Yeah. Luckily
we have a program for that. Plug. Boom.
Yeah.
Don't mind the bug guy.
Oh.
You're like, we're in the office in my house. We're getting our bug
window.
Listen, I need that guy.
Well, apparently you need a bug guy because I told Michael, like, why do we have this bug guy? He's like, you need a bug guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? He goes, yes. And I was like, okay.
I mean, okay. So next time your bug guy comes, I want you to go outside and look on the ground.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They'll see all the bugs dead.
Gross.
Not all of them. A good chunk of them.
Okay.
Talk to me about this. So back to just women, right?
Yeah.
So we have this affects men too, but we will also have issues with our progesterone. So there is, and I'm going to hack this, but there's a thing called the pregnenolone or cortisol steal. So pregnenolone is a mother hormone that then produces the rest of your sex or catabolic hormones, right? Or anabolic, excuse me.
Building
hormones. Thank you. So progesterone is created, but if we have high stress, we need more cortisol. Cortisol will steal from progesterone to create more of itself, or pregnenolone will steal from whatever. Basically, your progesterone can be affected because of this high levels of hormone of cortisol. So then we become estrogen dominant, right? Because now our balance of progesterone versus estrogen is off. So then we have too much estrogen, which can cause a whole slew of issues in the body. You can see things again like weight gain, cravings, mood issues, and issues with fertility. So I want you to talk about stress and fertility. In general. Yeah.
I interrupt this episode to bring you our second July promo, which is $48 for our Mindset Method self-guided coaching program. This program was designed to help you rewire your mind through my psychological curriculum. The method: know, name, notice, and nurture. This 16-course series that you'll have 1 year's access to is going to allow you to understand and put the puzzle pieces together to why you can't keep yourself as a priority. Will help you catch self-defeating beliefs, will We'll help you create new boundaries inside and out, and we will help you reframe your mind so that you are number one in your life. If you're interested in signing up for this program, you'll find the link in the show notes below. Again, it's a 16-course series. You'll get a weekly reflection that goes through the method. You'll get daily journal prompts. You'll get access to our community forum. And as a bonus, you will get access to the Mindset Movement Fitness app for $1 for the first month. So you guys definitely want to join. So if you want more information, check the show notes below. Now back to the show.
Yeah.
So stress and it's a thing. And because that's what like people don't realize is it doesn't even have to be like a overweight thing too.
Oh,
it could be a lean person that's stressing their body and putting them in this state. So when we're talking about fertility of that, you want to create like an environment that feels safe. We keep talking about that. We want your body to feel safe. We want your mind to feel safe.
Yep.
If your body's constantly in that fight, flight, freeze, there isn't a safe. Now, it's not to say that like if your body is always in this, you will not get pregnant. I'm not saying that because we know that happens. Like women who are in that state do get pregnant and their pregnancies are fine, but it makes it harder because your body's not in that safe state. You may be having irregular cycles, right? And part of fertility is having regular cycles. So that way you ovulate, track. And now this is taking out like PCOS or anything like that too, endometriosis. But it's one of those things of you want for fertility purposes to have a safe body. You want the hormones balanced. You want nice sleep because all of that is going to help let that egg implant. If body feels stressed or if it's constantly in an attack state, it doesn't have the resources to grow a baby. Right. So now even growing the baby throughout fertility, if you're constantly stressed, like studies have shown, like the babies become stressed, like of course, high anxiety. And then now it's not so much that like, oh, I'm high anxiety, therefore I'm genetically passing it to my baby. It's when the baby comes out and I'm becoming that. And then my baby's seeing that. And then that's learning behavior and they're learning how to deal with these emotions, thoughts, and feelings similar to you.
Right. It's epigenetics, baby. No, and it's as you were talking, I'm thinking my brain went back to like cave women, right? Like, were they out there killing no, they were.
No. And actually, you know what? Like they can show during times of high stress or like famine and whatnot or wars, fertility drops.
Oh yeah.
And so, and even with seasons, right? So like in the winter, fertility is less because there's not enough food. And in spring, it's like an abundance of fertility because of the plenty, like you're having more
the baby
food available.
boomers.
Yeah.
The war was over.
Yeah. Like
right?
Fucking.
Yeah, like, we're going, let's go, you know? But I mean, again, we talked about this last week. Your body's not stupid. It's so brilliant. It is this brilliant thing that like, if I get in the loop of like how smart my body is, I can go in like la la land of just like, cause you don't like, you're living in this thing that like really is, you think you're controlling it, but it's kind of controlling you. Like, you know, whatever. It has all these systems, but you just think, oh no, it's, you know, aloof to what's going on. It's not.
Right. And
it's been designed that way forever. Right. And so let's talk though about the habits, right? Because we talked about kind of like the hormonal, but like when you're not aware of your stress, you don't have good stress management.
Right.
You're going to have these hormone changes. And if cortisol is high, so you mentioned this earlier. So you guys, we talked about this before. Your cortisol is high in the mornings, gets you out of bed. And then around 3-4, it comes back down. Think of it as the sun. The moon is your melatonin. It slowly comes up around 3-4. And then we go to sleep. Now, this is for someone who has a regular schedule, right? So if our cortisol, though, is high, and I see this has been interesting. Women with stress states, their cortisol gets high in the afternoon. In the afternoon specifically. Maybe not at night, but in the like, And, you know, that makes sense. We're midday. We maybe haven't eaten, you know, we are I think of my clients patient to patient, you know, and in and out of whatever. If that is high later, then we're going to have issues with sleep. Right. And we've talked about how sleep is so important and how sleep and stress, they are like, you know, fraternal twins. They're the way that they treat the body. So now we're not sleeping. We don't have enough energy, right? So we turn to food.
Right.
Or we want to feel that sense of numb, like we talked about, right? We maybe by ourselves with our thoughts. We don't want to be with our thoughts because they're going to reflect all the shit that we just numbed from. So I'm just going to stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you said turn to food. This is where you see the stress come out more too. So turn to food as a way for coping. Usually we're looking for the more sugary foods, the comforting foods. But then what you'll see women do, and I want to say like rightfully so, because that's what you were taught, what is either fast or not eat the next morning, right? To make up for all of that. So now your body's even more stressed because now it's not getting nutrients.
Or you work out hard.
And then you work out hard to like work off what you ate. And so now I'm even more stressed.
Right.
And so you're in this cycle.
Oh.
And it's interesting because we can talk about the cycle of nutrition. Okay. Then we can talk about the cycle of poor sleep, right? So if cortisol is spiking in the mid-afternoon and then you're not going to bed until 10, but you're waking up at 5, okay, that's poor sleep. Right. And you're getting like fractured sleep. So there's your cycle there. And then thinking of mindset wise, I'm not dealing with the stuff, so I'm putting it back, but then it comes up in these other ways. And so I suppress it, or I lash out at my significant other or my kids, or, even like your subordinates at work too.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're feeling like they're just a bunch of idiots or something like that, like sometimes they are.
You have no emotional boundaries.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like maybe you're just like your leadership is getting. It's not that you're not a good leader, but it's compromised because of this stuff you're not doing. So now your mental's like cycle starts. So there's all these little, like I just picture a body with all these little like spinning wheels, but they're trying to control it by either that fight, or freeze.
Right. Right.
But there's still other spinning wheels. So it's like almost like whack-a-mole.
Aleka said it was like you have the person who's trying to like hold the plates and spin them with like the feet and this, and then they're juggling at the same time. Yeah. No, it is like, you think about it, it's overwhelming almost, right? And we do it all the time. And the exercise piece, I think, is really important because there's a few things that people say, well, exercise is my only stress relief. But it's that's my favorite. Exercise is my stress relief. And I'm like, well, if you're super duper stressed, you shouldn't be exercising the way you do. And we see these cortisol junkies, right? And luckily for us, when people get to us, or at least on the first time we're talking to them, I'm like, listen, I'm going to ask you to do things you've never done before. And one of them is going to be pull back on this movement because your body is showing me a stressed body, which is what we're going to talk about, the signs of that next.
I like to use the statement on that as you keep doing it and yet you don't like the body. Right. So why don't we just not do it and see what happens? And they're like, well, what if, if I don't do it, I'll feel stressed. I'm like, okay, you feel stressed either way. Like you might as well just take a stressor out of it.
Well, my infamous client, Rachel, love her so much. Mind pump client that they sent to me. That was her only way to feel. To feel was to work out, and she had to do it hard and fast and die. Yeah. Because she was so numb that was the thing. And the thought of taking it away was so scary because she had no skills to manage her stress. Now she does, and she's doing so well. And her body, if you look at when she called them, because it's all documented, to when we went to, her hair is fuller, it's blonder, like her skin looks better. She's she's beautiful, but like everything changed. Right. But when we think exercise is my only coping skill, and then that's a huge problem, you guys. So like, if that's something you think like that's how I calm down, then we've got a fucking issue. Yeah. Because you are just hitting your body. You're, like you said, it's not safe. You're putting it more in a stress state. Or when we're not eating because we had the food, we're putting it more in a stress state. And now these things are compounding, and they compound, they affect your hormones. Your hormones are going to affect all the things. So the big one though is the emotional eating though, right? So when we see people gain weight from stress, it's not stress. Again, stress is good. We want it, but it's my inability to manage it. So therefore I turn to food to numb, right?
And food, I think people turn to that is because it's easy to manage.
Mhm.
It's easy to control.
Right.
And so, whereas like, what else could you really control in your life? You can control what you wear, but you've probably already done that.
Well, you control your thoughts, your feelings, but you don't want to do that.
Right.
Or you're not aware on how.
Uh-huh.
So I can control what I put in my body. Yeah, 1000%. And some people do it the opposite way. They want to feel empty. They don't want to feel anything.
Right.
So I want to talk to those people too. Like, it's not just binge eating.
Mm-mm.
It's restricting.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel I know I went through a really bad breakup. This was, 10 and a half years ago. I had to force feed myself.
Really?
My body literally would not eat.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I remember standing over an English muffin and being like, trying to force feed myself. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I remember getting up. I was teaching Zumba.
Ooh.
Getting up from sitting on the couch and like being like, I can't imagine having like that all the time.
Yeah.
Like someone who's just like has an eating disorder, like it, and I didn't want it. My body though was like, no.
See, but so let's turn to the person that does want it, because then they start thinking, oh, it's good, I'm hungry. Oh, good, I'm hungry. Oh, good, I'm hungry. Because then that means I'm losing fat. I'm losing fat. I'm losing fat. Right. So it's like reinforces like, if you're hungry, like good, because then that means your body's going to eat its fat in order to lose the weight.
It's all distorted.
Yeah. And so then
I'm not gonna lie, that was coming out of that was hard.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I remember
because you're kind of like, well, I'm lean. So
yeah, my
nice.
mentor, we would go to this little cafeteria, everyone at Child Help, and we get like, they had like salad bar and stuff. And I got like a small salad. And she goes, you're going to keep that breakup weight off? Like, and she like checked me on it.
Like,
no. Like, I did for like a year, which is crazy, but it was nuts. But so it goes both ways. And I want, neither is healthy.
Right.
I lost a ton of muscle. I mean, I literally lost 50 pounds in 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks. So, so let's talk about what a stressed body feels like. And then we'll talk about how to handle it. Because that's probably why you're here. So we've already talked about it. So lack of sleep.
Yep.
Right. Hair loss. I feel like your hair will start falling out.
I would almost say like sunken eyes sometimes. Right.
Yeah. Even just your skin.
Nails are brittle.
Brittle nails. Obviously your mood, very reactive. Digestion. You get locked up. Locked up. Again, because why? Because we're in fight, flight, or freeze. Everything under the diaphragm goes down. We see, I've said this on this podcast before, we see people with type 2 diabetes, erectile dysfunction, IBS, fibromyalgia, because they have PTSD. Not because of any sort of issue. Yeah. It's because they're literally stuck.
Holding in that.
Yeah. So that's a big one.
Well, even like thinking about your gut issues. So there's that whole, like the other, flashy word is your gut brain axis.
Yeah. Which is a true thing.
It is. It's a true thing. I'm not negating that, but it's hyped up. But also, like if because what is it? Your gut sends more signals to your brain than your brain does to your gut. So if my gut isn't like functioning appropriately, it's going to send signals to my brain, and then that's going to come out too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's what else?
As far as like the fatigue, overwhelmed, kind of. I always feel like a deer in the headlights, kind of like when you're talking to them, their eyes glaze over, right? And you're like, stay like.
Are you talking about me? No.
Yeah, no.
I was gonna say, shoot,
inflamed. Like if your rings are fitting differently, your bracelets too, your shoes.
Yeah, that's a good one. Freak. I forgot what I was saying, but obviously high cravings.
Yeah.
Right.
Sugar cravings.
Maybe even when you're eating, you're not getting full.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe a couple of hours after eating, your like cravings come right back. That's usually an indication of a blood sugar issue. So, anything else?
No. I'm sure
poor recovery.
Yeah.
Sorry. Add to it. What else? What else do you think? Stress. Oh, I know. Pain. My trap muscles get so hot and painful. That's where I store my stress, is in my traps. Some people, a lot of
Pain
people
is
store
actually a good one.
yeah, a lot of people store it in their hips. Well, they get fibromyalgia. Now, I haven't read anything on it in years, but it's just like this chronic pain in the body. But like if people could feel the way I felt when I was, working at Child Help, like doing the child abuse stuff, my neck, like, and I have issues in my neck still to this day because of how tight and like painful it got in here. And it was like tingly sometimes. Now I'm talking about it, it's like feeling like that. Because when I would, you have to think about this, guys. It could be your jaw, it could be your neck,
TMJ,
right? Your hips. You've got to think about when you're stressed, what is your body doing? So apparently mine was just kind of like heightened here on my shoulders. So I was just holding, and I didn't realize that was my posture. So now I do this thing where I push them down. But I'll still I will catch myself up here and then I push them back down. Right. So pain's a big one. There's a lot of other things, but cycle. That was the one I always said, like your cycle is off. We have to realize, so we talked about that progesterone issue. When progesterone goes down, that's when we have a period. Okay. Right. So we have progesterone, it's up. And then during the luteal phase, it comes down. Right. We're talking about cycles. So we talked about progesterone, right? So right before menses, your progesterone drops so that you can shed the lining, right? So if I'm getting this cortisol steal, we will see women have periods sooner, or they'll bleed for a day and then it'll go away. So we're seeing these kind of weird patterns. Where it's like it'll come and then it'll go and this and that. Now, of course, so I want to talk about like what to do. The first thing with this is just roll out something else. Like when it comes to the stress bod, it sounds like a lot of shit. It sounds like perimenopause. It sounds like menopause transition. It sounds like endometriosis. It sounds like PCOS. Right. So let's rule out something else before we think it's stress. But now we know we're stressed. What are some things that our listeners can do to chill the fuck out?
I would say back off your training if they're doing that.
Absolutely.
But then this is where I'm like, you have to hire a coach, because to back off your training, like that, it's really hard mentally. You and I both know that.
Oh yeah.
It's really hard mentally, but also you will have a propensity to easily slide back into it. And you don't know what backing off your training means.
Right.
Because like for me back in the day, if you would have told me back off your training, I would have been like, so I'll just work out 6 days a week instead of 7.
Right.
Right. Or I'll work out once a day, 3 times a week instead of, twice a day. And then the other days I'll still work out twice a day, but maybe go like I would have tried to manipulate the situation. So I didn't actually back off training, but I thought I was.
Right.
So that would be my number one. Or get walking.
Right.
Like if we're not doing any movement, I would say start something.
Yeah. Walking is such an amazing parasympathetic nervous system tool, which we're going to add more to this. The reason why, you guys, is you're in nature, you're getting fresh air, you're getting direct sunlight, you're walking, right? So you're in this like low steady state cardio. You may be doing something you like, right? So
or
like
listening to something you enjoy.
That's what I was gonna say. I listened to my little Jack Canfield podcast and I'm looking at the fucking hummingbirds and I'm in the state of bliss.
Right. Well, and there's something visually that happens. I forget what it is as you're walking with the things that are passing you. That is almost like, I don't
EMDR.
like sedative in a way.
It's kind of the looking back and forth of things. So that's eye movement desensitization.
Yes.
So EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is an actual therapeutic technique that uses bilateral stimulation, looking back and forth. Now, obviously, we're not doing it as quickly as we do it in EMDR, but there is this aspect of kind of scanning the environment, right? Or scanning the horizon, whatever you want to call it. So there is that kind of therapeutic part of it.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
So spectrum of if we're not moving, let's go for a walk.
Right.
If we are moving too much, let's really get honest about that.
Yeah. Bring it in. My favorite thing, and something we start a lot of our clients with this, is just a check-in, setting an alarm on your phone, right? Like, and the check-in, you guys, you can just put an alarm on your phone. What am I thinking, feeling? What do I need right now?
Yeah.
Right. And I have them do it like around, and I want you to think of yourself like, okay, when do I usually feel that? Like for me, the tightness in my shoulders, like 10 a.m. and maybe 4 p.m. or maybe we need to do it in the car when we're in the garage right before we walk into the house, right? Check in. What am I thinking, feeling? What do I need right now?
Yeah.
And you're letting the air out of that balloon slower than just, letting it go at the end of the day, which you always do. We end up in the pantry, or we're screaming at our husband, whatever it is. If we can just check in, what do we need? In the first times, you're just like, this isn't working. This is so dumb, right? But eventually you're like, oh, I'm seeing patterns. Like, oh, when this happens, I feel this way. And then you can start learning the skills. But we just need to kind of check in.
Yeah.
Right. Then do some of the skills we're talking about. But that's my favorite thing is
I think check-in resolves a lot of the trickle effects too. So like thinking of, if I check in with myself, so I know I had a stressful day and I know this is why, and then I'm starting to see the patterns, and then I'm starting to see my compensation patterns, then it makes it easier to start identifying when I'm going down that road.
Yep.
And so like, again, it doesn't mean I can't go down that road, or like, it just makes it a little bit of a stop, like choose the choice that you want to make and then go from there instead of letting it happen to you.
Now you're consciously aware.
Yes.
Right. Of what's happening to you.
Sleep. You have to.
I don't get why people don't get, like, I will wake up looking forward to going back to sleep.
Sometimes I wake up and I go back to sleep. Like I wake up, I eat, and then I go, I think I'm just going to go back to bed.
Yeah. I'm not pregnant, so I can't do that. But I literally am like, I can't wait to go back to sleep tonight.
Well, but even so, like when we're talking about sleep, like it doesn't have to be like, okay, so if you sleep, we'll say from 10 p.m. to 5, which is about 6 hours. But even then, are you really getting 6 hours, or are you just laying in bed and then going to sleep? It's not like, okay, well, you need to start going to bed at 9 or 8 and waking up at 5. It's, why don't we just try for like 9:45, like getting in bed first then, or 9:30, instead of taking like the radical shift, or like even just saying, you know what, maybe I can dim my lights as the evening goes on. Start there. Don't try and do it all at once too.
It's not going to happen. It's false confidence. I love that word. Loves that phrase. False confidence, which we'll talk about. Meditation. I've said this before, is designed to rewire your brain. Meditation doesn't have to be this like woo-woo. Right. No. One meditation, you guys, that I love, we used to do this in our eating disorder groups, is I want you to count to 10, and anytime you have a thought, you have to come back to 1.
Oh.
So you'll be like, 1, 2, 3. This isn't that hard.
1.
That's a thought. Right? Come back to 1.
Oh, that would be really hard.
It's hard, but it's a good way to just be aware of your inner thoughts. Yeah. Right. Because if I can practice that and kind of listen to my thoughts, I'm going to have more awareness around thinking and realizing how much control, if I'm coming back to 1, I have over my thinking. And that, of course, is an example of how you ultimately manage your stress in the end. Right. So there is just simply that one, or just square breathing, 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold for 4 seconds. Super easy. I love Pass Around the Smile as the podcast. She does a walking meditation. It is my favorite thing. I will link it below, because you get to walk, and then she's like, think about someone you're grateful for.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, think about someone. Actually, this was a Peloton walk outdoors too. So Peloton has them, and it's Rebecca Kennedy, and she says, and I started crying. She's like, I want you to think about someone who's no longer here that you wish was walking with you. And like, it was just like so beautiful. And like, she does this whole kind of meditation in Peloton too. And now that I think about it, it's very similar as the Pass Around the Smile. It's wonderful. And their voice is so nice.
Yeah.
And then the one on Peloton, you're like dancing. Love that. You know?
Yeah.
So what else? What else we got?
I would say boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
Boundaries with the people that you surround yourself with, the friends, the work, the calls, Everything.
I just took another admin day.
I know.
I'm very proud of myself.
It's so hard for you.
Yeah, I have to do it.
I
I
know.
can't.
Trust me.
You get it.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard, but I have to lean on my team. Like, I can't take everyone. And it's hard. That's hard for me. Like, I can't take all the clients. So I only see clients 3 days a week now. So for those of you listening, you will be working with our team because homegirl is having a baby. This homegirl has a baby called the Mindset Matter.
Today's the last day.
Yes. So sign up right now.
Yeah.
Well, you won't be able to sign up.
Yeah.
This will be posted already. But we want to come back down to that parasympathetic place. So some of the things I want to talk about is grounding. One of the easiest things to do is put your feet on the floor. So, okay, we're going to do activity, everyone. So put your feet on the floor. Okay. Now we have shoes on. It's easier to do this in shoes. So I want you to I want you to feel the sole, like inside of your shoe on the bottom of your foot. So really feel the connection between the inside of your shoe, that bottom part, and your foot. Okay. Now I want you to feel the top of the shoe. So kind of curl your toes. Feel the top of your shoe. Keep your feet on the ground. Now I want you to just only put pressure on your big toe and push it down on the ground. Okay. Now that second toe, try only to push it down on the ground. It's hard, huh?
Yeah. But do you ever do the toe piano?
I do the toe piano often.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you'll do that for each toe, right? And then we're going to press our heels into the ground, the ball of our foot, but we don't put our heels up, right? So we're going to feel the ball of our foot and you're just grounding yourself.
Yeah.
Like on the ground. Like if you're ever feeling stressed, put your feet down if they're weirdly not, or take your shoes off and put them on the ground. There is this actual sense of I'm here, I'm present, I'm aware. Grounding. Grounding is great. Mindfulness, right? So an easy mindful activity is find all the green things in the room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 6, 7. That is a way to come into that parasympathetic place. Humming.
Really?
Humming activates the vagus nerve, which is your largest nerve in your body. It's connected to all of your organs. Another reason why those certain organs pause, because your vagus nerve is activated. Humming, it will help activate that nerve. There is so many things that you can do to calm yourself down. We will add a list. I have a list in what was this webinar. But one thing that's really helpful too is just if you're going to do the check-ins, maybe even just write it down.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have our clients do that.
I'm a big fan of the write down.
Yeah.
Because when we keep it up in our brain, it starts to spiral or it easily gets distracted.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
Write it down. What was happening? How did you feel emotionally? How did you feel physically? We have an activity on this in our program. What was your knee-jerk reaction, right? And eventually you'll learn how to respond. And these things, they definitely add up. I can tell you, I've talked about my mental health recently. Like I had to come back to this practice.
Yeah.
I 1000% had to, or I was going to lose my mind. And it gave me the power to say like, no, I'm not seeing clients, but 3 days a week. I am now in our actual clarity call. I say, this clarity call is for our amazing team, not for us. You may get us, you may not. There's no better than less than in this situation. We choose the people to be in this, like to be on our team who make sense for what we do. I don't just let anyone. Sorry. So that was a big thing too. And maybe even, and I'll tell you for me, and I talked to Beverly about this, is just hiring someone to do our clarity calls.
Oh, really?
So there is no connection.
Yeah.
Because they meet
you.
Us,
yeah.
Right. So then it's like, oh, you're my person. You get it. You understand me. But then I'm like, oh,
well, and they're having to re-explain to somebody else everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I could see that.
When I worked for another program, they had just had people who did the calls. And they were disconnected. They weren't coaches themselves. And they just knew each person, what their perfect client would be. And they put, So that was another thing too. But I want your stress practice to be as secure as your exercise practice, as your nutrition practice. It is a big rock. Stress management is one of your knobs on your boombox. It's one of your norms. It has to be. It is, again, as we see, it affects everything, and it affects things hormonally, it affects things behaviorally, it affects things cognitively, right? So if I'm always overwhelmed and stressed, I'm going to be fatigued, right? I'm not going to be able to make good choices because I'm mentally fatigued. So it's important.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, if you would like to not explore your stress on your own, and you would like people who literally do this with
Every day.
all of our clients,
Yeah.
every single one of them, you can check out the show notes below for our Clarity Call link. That would give you access to one of us to discuss your goals and what you need. By the end of that call, you literally will walk away with the understanding of what it is, why it's happening, and ultimately how to change it. And if you choose to let us help you, obviously, we would love to do that. If you want to follow us on social media, you will find myself and the team at Mindset of Matter Coaching. You'll find Coach Amanda at fitbyamanda.az. You'll also find our lives, yay, on YouTube at the Mindset of Matter. Don't forget to check out the July promos. I don't even know if will this post in July? Okay. July promos, which is the Mindset of Mommies. Again, stress, fertility, mindset. So important, not just for you, but for baby.
It's also like the last opportunity to work with me,
Oh yeah.
to be honest.
Not forever.
Not forever, but
If
for
she
this
says
year.
forever, I'm gonna take my stress off of a cliff. And we're Thelma and Louising this. So sorry. Please don't say that ever again.
No, sorry, I don't even like I would
They
say
saw the demise
for a
of
little
Christine.
bit. Yeah. Sorry, we should do it. I'm zooming up your face when I said that. Like, hey, by the way,
I'm
here's my
leaving.
2-week notice.
Gosh. Oh my God, that would suck.
No.
But yeah, no, it's true because she won't be taking on clients because we're having a
baby.
yeah,
Us.
Listen, don't get it twisted when Auntie Christina comes in the house. Okay,
There is no twist.
There is no twist. I'm like, I'm stealing. Come on, baby. And then I'm like, okay, you can have it back.
Yeah, I'm like, never mind. It stinks.
Yeah.
It shouldn't.
I define stinky.
Ugh.
I mean, my dogs fart all the time.
Oh my God.
And like they shit in the house because they're old. Ugh. Usually on their own beds. Anyways, what were we saying? Oh, guys, we're stuck. We are stuck at, I think, 12 5-star reviews on
Oh, really?
Apple.
Come
Yeah,
on.
come on.
My 2 aunts.
Yeah, we got your aunts and we've got people following us.
Mhm.
Please, if you guys can leave us a rating and review, share this with individuals. If your friend is a stressed out case, guess what? This is a great little podcast to send to her,
Mhm.
right? Because not only are we talking about how to deal with it emotionally, but physically too. And that's it. That's all I gotta say. That's all I have to say other than this one last thing.
What you say in the mind.
You see in the mirror. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.